Imagine a world where the Soviet Union didn't collapse, where the Iron Curtain never fell, where the USSR emerged victorious in the Cold War, and communism, not capitalism, defined the future of the world.
What would our lives look like if the Soviet dream, that iron grip on power, had stretched into the 21st century?
Could the world have avoided the chaos of the late 20th century? Or would we have entered a new kind of Cold War, one far more dangerous than we ever imagined?
Let's break it down. What if the USSR had won the Cold War?
Let's start with the most obvious. The Soviet Union would have remained the global superpower.
Think about it. No American-led capitalism spreading across the globe. No McDonald's in Moscow, no NATO. Instead, the USSR would have expanded its sphere of influence even further.
Imagine a world where Eastern Europe remains under Soviet control, and China, strengthened by Soviet alliance, becomes the undisputed economic and military rival to the US.
What does that mean for democracy? Would Western liberalism be silenced forever, or would communism evolve into something we never expected?
It's not just about borders. It's about philosophies of power, the world as we know it, transformed.
But here's where it gets tricky. With the USSR firmly in charge, countries all over the world would have to choose sides or face Soviet domination. What happens to nations like South America, Africa, or Asia?
In this new world order, global resistance movements would either be crushed by the USSR or redirected by the US, forcing the world into constant military standoff.
But imagine the US on the defensive. The space race? Still controlled by the USSR. The arms race? Even more intense. Global military balance would tip towards totalitarian regimes.
Would you have freedom of speech? Or would we be living in an Orwellian nightmare with the KGB watching our every move? Let's focus on the US instead of the American dream. We'd have the Soviet reality of planned economies, no market freedom, and perhaps the elimination of democratic systems.
But what about personal freedoms? Could the USSR, with all its dominance, have ever allowed true freedom of expression or religious liberty? Would the world's most powerful superpower have crushed cultural diversity?
And there's the tech race. If the Soviets controlled Silicon Valley's competitors or even led the global tech revolution, would we have the internet as we know it? Or would all technology serve the state's agenda?
Could we have seen the rise of digital surveillance before the 2000s? Entire populations under the microscope. That's a chilling thought. Would the Soviet Union have eventually reformed itself like China did in the 21st century? Or would it have kept the iron grip? Would there have been a Soviet-style version of the internet? Or would information remain tightly controlled?
It's interesting to think about cultural shifts. Would we see an underground resistance in art, music, and film pushing back against state control? Or would art become state-approved propaganda?
Would the world have faced a perpetual Cold War instead of the brief 40-year contest we know? What would the modern world look like under an unchallenged Soviet regime?
If the USSR had won, would we have seen a new world order? One where all decisions are made by the Kremlin? Or would this ultimate victory lead to decay?
Eventually, just like all other superpowers, the Soviet system would face internal contradictions. Would Gorbachev's reforms have happened, albeit slower? Or would the USSR simply crumble under its own weight?
Maybe the USSR wouldn't last forever. Maybe it'd face the same fate as all empires eventually do. The question is, what would the world look like after the fall of the USSR again?
The answer is clear. Whether the USSR won or not, power always comes with a price. And empires, no matter how powerful, always fall. The question is, when?
And if history shapes tomorrow, who controls the past? If you want to understand the cycles of empires and the rise and fall of world powers, don't forget to subscribe to ChronoDominus.
Next up in our Chronocycle series, the Empire Cycle, Why All Powers Collapse. It's a journey through history's greatest rises and falls.
Subscribe and master the timeline. See you in the next episode.